Welcome back, folks. We have now filled our tummies with Dairy Queen, and we are ready to talk about the worst movies from this past year of 2019. We each, of course, have a top 5 or bottom 5, or however you want to characterize it, list. It's always awkward. Plus, we each, of course, have a couple of honorable mentions as well. Honorable mentions in sucking, if you will.
Dishonorable
mentions that didn't quite make the list. So, of course, we'll start things off with our honorable mentions, and it's going to be very, very brief because I only have 2, and I believe Tyler only has 1. So my 2 honorable mentions in sucking this year, dishonorable mentions, are The Curse of La Llorona, which is like, it doesn't take much for horror movies to suck.
Yeah.
And basically the whole premise of The Curse of La Llorona is Mexico's really mysterious, you guys. It's basically an hour and a half of like, this lady killed her kids for reasons, and now she's haunting people for more reasons that don't really matter because it's a horror movie. And that's basically, it's generic schlock horror that tries to ride on the fact that it's Mexico, and it's like, ooh, we can do weird visual stuff. And it's like, I need more than that in horror, so that's why it winds up on this list. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because we talked about that to no end about how it's not really a movie, and that was actually on this list for a long time, even though I rated it like a 50. It was just like, I really didn't seek out this same degree of bad movies until late in the year, and I think maybe deep down I was looking for a reason for Quentin Tarantino to not be on this list proper. I was like, I can better justify it being an honorable mention, but those are my only 2 honorable mentions on the year.
Yeah, I didn't seek out many bad movies either. Yeah, my only one is Replicas, but I'm guessing we're gonna probably talk about that some more. So I'm just gonna leave it at that.
All right.
For now.
All right. So kicking things off on the top 5 worst movies of 2019 is my number 5 worst movie of 2019, and that is a movie called Crawl, and it's a movie that is like, it's a not shark-based, it's a gator-based horror. So it's a scary animal-based horror movie. And it's just like, okay, those are usually at least good for some gore, and maybe it might be a little surprising, and has the context of like, this girl's a really good swimmer in university for reasons that you find out a little bit later, and she's a really good swimmer, and there's flooding, so it's like, okay, so there's water, and water is very much going to be a part of this. But Crawl wound up being, for a movie that so many people seem to look at it like, and like horror aficionados, like people that really like the genre, seem to look at it and afterwards be like, oh, I really enjoyed this, I thought this was really good, and I'm just like, I feel like I really missed something, because to me it just feels like a low-rent Sharknado that didn't really take advantage of the claustrophobic setting that it has, like the whole thing taking place in a really, really, really small, basically crawl space basement. And it didn't really take much advantage of that at all. And it really, I think it totally wastes the tagline on the movie. The tagline on the movie was, "They were here before us." And I'm like, okay, maybe this is going to do something, like it's going to do something, say something about the gators, and there's something about the gators that, whatever. No, it's just, gators were here before us. Okay, cool. And like, he didn't really do anything with that tagline, which is at least a semi-interesting tagline. Crawl, at a rating of, I think, 45 is what I wound up giving that. Crawl winds up being my number 5.
Yeah, I never saw it. I started it one day, but then I just wasn't in the mood for a horror movie, and I just never got a chance to go back to it, which I wanted to because I knew you didn't like it. But I also, like you said, I knew that reception of it was much more positive. So my number 5 is A Dead Don't Die, which I mentioned in the Adam Driver discussion because he was in it and he was fine, and it's just, it doesn't really work so much as satire. It doesn't really work as a horror, and it doesn't really work that well as a comedy. But my biggest problem with it is it has a great cast, and they're so misused, and that's upsetting. Because when you have a cast at that level, then you kind of hope that they're going to have a lot of stuff to chew on and do a good job. And I'm kind of hit or miss with the director in general, I guess. Some stuff I really like, and this was one thing that I didn't like. It was kind of a disappointment because I expected to like it. I thought a nice little satirical horror comedy about zombies and with Adam Driver, and it wasn't terrible. I rated it a 4.5 out of 10, which is not a passing grade, but on my scale, it's like I call it close but no.
Right.
So there's things to like about it, and if somebody said, "Oh, I like it," I'd be, well, I could have maybe went that way if, it was close. But I still would not recommend it.
You may notice that my phone is on the table a little bit more because, this is the point in the awards where we're referring back to our reviews just as little refreshers. It's a little behind the scenes for you to, make sure that we know a little bit more about what we're talking about. So, my number 4 worst movie of 2019 is a movie called After Darkness. And I believe it might be a cheater from late last year. And part of the reason it lands here is it's another one that's got like a pretty darn interesting premise. The premise being the sun burns out. So it's like, okay, interesting premise, worldwide apocalypse. We talk about, someday the sun's gonna burn out, whatever. Well, imagine if that happened like next week. That's kind of what the premise of the movie is. And it's all centered within this one house with this one really rich family. And one of the brothers has a pregnant girlfriend, and the other, and so it's just like the whole family is together, and you have the patriarch of the family who's trying to keep everybody together, and he's been the breadwinner his whole life, and blah blah blah. So part of my biggest issue with it is the sun burns out in the first 20 minutes of the movie.
Yes.
So it's one of those rare occasions where for a movie I didn't like, it would have done better, I think. Would have been a better movie with a slightly longer runtime and a little more time prior to the sun burning out. Because part of the problem is the movie is full of all of these poorly acted, just emotional outbursts of characters yelling at each other for virtually no reason, and none of that anger or sadness or despair or disappointment, none of the emotions that they attempt to evoke in this movie are actually earned through quality of performance or through having enough backstory or virtually anything. They have these dinners where they all sit down at this dinner table, and every family dinner is an utter Jerry Springer tire fire. It's just bad. And it's what normal people would, in any realm of possibility, talk like this? And so it so took me out of what they were supposed to be anyway, trying to build, which is this tense and really, again, despairful, to coin a phrase, situation where, look, the sun has burned, we will never see the sun again, kind of thing. And then, of course, the movie cops out with all of them, spoilers, all of them dying at the end, but maybe not, and the sun comes back, but maybe not, and not really. So it's it wants to lead you to, it's make up your own interpretation. It's well, I would if the movie before it was any good. So that, After Darkness, is my number 4 worst movie of the year at, I believe, a 30 out of 100.
Yeah, I haven't seen it or heard of it. That's the one problem with doing the worst movies is there's not always a lot of crossover, but it sounds crappy.
Yeah.
So
not great. And nobody really in it that, I know this person, I've seen this person in other things, they've given good performances. Anything that might kind of cause you to kind of root for the movie a little bit, it had none of those things.
Yes. Okay, my number 4 is I See You. So this is a movie that I wouldn't have checked out otherwise, but it came up somewhere, and it showed, I think it was either the poster or the DVD cover or something. And it's just this black background with I See You on the bottom, and it's just this creepy as shit mask. Like, I wish you could just show the audience when you edit it. It's such a good poster.
Okay.
It creeped me the fuck out. So I was like, I gotta watch this. And then, you know, it wasn't getting super well received, but it had some interesting conversation around it. I thought maybe if you saw it, I don't know if you ended up seeing it. It's kind of unique in the sense that I really liked, I at least liked the movie for the whole movie. This is weird, but bear with me.
Okay.
So I like the movie because the first act is creepy and ominous, and there's like this supernatural thing going on. And then the second act is a little weird because it kind of cuts away from that a little bit to this family, but there's these people, I can't remember what they call themselves, but they basically live in the house of other people, but they don't know they're there.
Ooh.
But the two are just kind of annoying dinks, especially the one. And then, so that was kind of like a dip, right? I was like, okay. But then the third act I kind of liked, and I even liked the twist at the end. And I won't ruin that, but I am about to ruin something. Because I have never had something break a movie for me like what I'm about to say. So I watched the whole movie, and I'm like, that's a pretty good movie, you know?
Okay.
It turns out that the whole thing at the beginning, which I haven't told you, but it's basically this kid riding through the woods.
Okay.
You know, just watching him ride through the woods. He's going through... He gets pulled, like yanked off his bike by what I think is something supernatural, because I slowed it down a few times after I was done to try to find, like, maybe there was a trap or something. I don't know. I didn't see anything. If anybody's watching this and they've seen the movie and they saw something, please let me know, because you will completely change my opinion on the movie if there was, like, a trap there or something that yanked him off. Because the thing is, there is no supernatural presence. It is all done by humans. You find out at the end that so basically all the writers and director did was they set up this bullshit thing of a kid being yanked.
Okay.
But there was no supernatural presence, so how the fuck did that happen? That's not a twist. That's not storytelling. And it pissed me off so much that they wasted my goddamn time with that, because there was no way. There was no way that kid was yanked off the bike like there was a ghost. It made no sense. There was no connect. How did it happen? It annoyed me because they were just setting, like, you know, because you can tease something and try to get people going one way and then swerve, and that's great,
Totally.
right? That's fine as long as it makes some kind of sense. This doesn't connect at all.
Right.
And I'm like, I actually didn't like the movie after it was over, even though I liked the movie. Because I thought about it, I was like,
Interesting.
no.
I don't know that I've ever had that happen.
No, it sucked. Like, I retroactively started to dislike it because I was like, wow, now that I know that there's no supernatural presence and no possible way this happened to the kid, you literally just bullshitted me. Yeah, and that's literally the reason why I don't like it.
Wow.
And that's never happened to me before where something has, like, broken a movie to that level. Like, there's been plot twists that I've hated. Like, off the top of my head, The Village.
Right.
Like, you know, there was a pretty good movie up to a certain point, then the plot twist happened. It was like, fuck this movie, the rest of it. Right? M. Night's shitty plot twist made a lot more sense than this. So, it made me a little annoyed.
My number 3 worst movie of 2019 is a movie called The Silence. Now, for those of you that enjoyed your A Quiet Place, but would enjoy that movie a little less good, comes The Silence, which is basically, hey, we can't make noise or else these things that don't have eyeballs will come and eat us. Does that sound somewhat familiar? So now the difference is these creatures that are in The Silence were in some mountain range in Mexico, and like cave divers just dove too deep. And so it was like a cross between A Quiet Place and Lord of the Rings, because they dove too greedily and too deep, and they like let these things go, and they're these little bat-like looking things, but they'll eat you if they find you. I think it actually, no, actually, you know what? It's not down in Mexico. It's a lot. Actually, it must be a lot higher up because it starts on the East Coast. So one of my problems with the movie, sadly, and this is one of those problems I have to make up in my brain because I was so goddamn bored watching this movie, was like, it's a good thing for these creatures that this didn't happen in Texas. Because I'm like, there has to be enough gun nuts in the US with enough guns to handle this problem. Because they set up the fact that you can shoot them. And you can shoot them dead.
Yeah.
So, okay, great. So if this problem begins in Texas, it starts at 3 a.m, it's taken care of by noon. Because there's just enough guys with enough guns that are just like, no worries, we got this. Now, I have many other problems with this movie. Like, let's start with, how does, like, the apocalypse still have FaceTime? Like, we're deep into this movie, and these goddamn kids on their iPads are still using FaceTime. Like, how is there an internet connection for you to still be using FaceTime when there's, like, no electricity anymore? How does that work? I don't think that works.
Magic.
I get
well, you said it was part of Lord of the Rings.
It's true.
But it's probably magic.
So it's Saruman the White making sure your Wi-Fi connections are still working. It doesn't make much sense. Also, there's a reverend that shows up, like when they're like the father and daughter are like sort of scavenging for food, right? And this preacher shows up who has cut his tongue out so that he can't make any noise, which is stupid because if you cut your tongue out, you can still scream.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make much sense. But anyway, this is who this person is. He's cut his tongue out. He follows them basically back to where they're camped out with him and his weird cult followers, like they were like background extras that were in Dr. Sleep but didn't quite make the cut.
Yeah.
So they all show up. And he gets a piece of paper, and he writes on the piece of paper, the girl is fertile. She's like a 13-year-old girl, or whatever. Like, the girl is fertile. It's a little early to start the child rape cult, don't you think? Like, it just happened, like, 2 or 3 days ago. Like, doesn't this seem awfully quick to just be like, we must impregnate all the 13-year-old girls? Like, it just seems like...
Oh, boy, YouTube's gonna flag you saying that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure, but it's just like, doesn't it seem like it was a little early to start the weirdo cult? Also, one other ridiculously stupid thing, like towards the end of the movie, when, spoilers, they're safe, they go up north. Basically, they come up to Canada because they're like, Canada's cold. These things don't like the cold. How do we know that? We don't. We're basically just guessing.
We know they don't like the cold. We know we can shoot them.
Yeah. So it's like, so they go up north to Canada. Oh, Canada. And it's winter because Canada.
Yeah, it's always winter.
It's always winter in Canada. We're in our igloos, it's fine. So then you have a scene where like one of these things is trying to eat like a dead animal or something, and then all of a sudden, phew, like an arrow comes through and like shoots it in the neck. So she's Katniss Everdeen now.
Yes.
For reasons. There's no reason, she's just Katniss now. So it's like, okay, cool. And then there's a voiceover that's like, will they evolve eventually? Who knows? And it's like, yes, that's how evolution works. Yeah. Eventually, they will change and probably adapt to the cold. So basically what I'm trying to say is this was a fantastic movie that left me with no unanswered questions whatsoever. At a rating of 30 out of 100, The Silence is my number 3. There's still 2 that are worse than this. Number 3 worst movie of 2019.
Alright, my number 3 is made by our boy Fred Durst, and the movie is The Fanatic.
Yes.
I'm kind of conflicted a little bit. It's actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Obviously still a bad movie, but I've seen people absolutely taking a dump on it, and I think it's a little better than they give it credit for. However, he gets in the car and the one guy is like, "You like Limp Bizkit?" and plays Limp Bizkit, but then it's like, oh my god. The thing is, if the main character, Moose, played by John Travolta, who is actually trying, so, you know, God bless him. He's trying, I read that the main character is supposed to have autism. So if the main character has autism, then that explains some of the stuff. Could I see some of the symptoms? Not all. But like that would kind of add a slightly interesting twist to it. But then at the same time it kind of butchers autism, and the thing is, I guess I'm talking a little bit more about autism than anything else, but that's because there's not really anything interesting to talk about. I don't really need Fred Durst to explain autism to me. So
Everyone needs Fred Durst to explain
I don't
autism
need
to them.
a Fred Durst movie to be like, this is autism. There's like a nugget of a good movie in there, but it's just like it's not in capable hands.
Right.
So, like maybe I should have put this in maybe number 5 because I don't think it's nothing about it annoys me as much. It's just it's ultimately just boring, and he takes some wild leaps to do certain things, and I don't know. It's a bad movie. I guess it gets number 3 because like there's a lot of interesting stuff you can do with a main character having autism because it's not really that explored.
Right.
But you also need somebody with a delicate touch, some talent.
Someone who has a brain in their head.
Who has a brain. And Fred Durst, not those things. Like, the only reason he works in Limp Bizkit is because he's so bad. Like, his lyrics are so bad, and his persona is so bad that it's kind of charming.
Stay tuned for our Limp Bizkit biopic coming soon. My number 2 worst movie of 2019 is Replicas. So, Keanu Reeves had, can we say it's like the most uneven year?
Can I just say the line that
Yes,
you already saw?
please.
We're in the middle of the Keanu songs, and then he makes something like this.
Yeah. Somebody either has naked pictures of him, or he just did a buddy of his a huge favor to be in this movie. So, okay, the movie opens up with, like, Keanu waving at CGI projections in the air while speaking sciencey sounding alphabet soup that doesn't mean anything. And I was waiting for him to suit up and become Iron Man. Like, that was exactly what I was thinking. I was like, Keanu Reeves is going to be the new Iron Man. That's fantastic. I'll take that. And then, so him and his family get into a car crash that he survives because he is John Wick. And then he goes, I've never seen from someone go from, like, lovable protag to supervillain in, like, 20 minutes. He went there. He immediately, the car crash happens, his family dies, and he immediately goes supervillain. And he's just like, I can bring them back to life. And it's just like, what? You literally replicated your entire family for no reason other than the fact that you thought you could do it.
Can I say one positive
Yes,
thing?
absolutely.
You were talking about the beginning. I actually liked when they brought the robot to life, and he was like, well, and he started flipping out.
Yes.
Like, I actually enjoyed that, and I think, well, maybe this is better than, because like I saw your really low rating of it, which is why I watched it ultimately, and I was like, well, maybe it's not as bad as Justin thinks it is. I mean, I don't rate it quite as low.
Right.
Like, I have a little more respect for it than you do, I guess. But I will say, the very beginning when it starts tearing itself apart, like, I actually enjoyed that.
So, like,
But then after that, it's just...
Yeah. The idea behind the replicants was, like, that they're trying to bring, like, androids, basically, to life with human consciousness. So, basically, it's the singularity, right? And there is that really interesting scene very early in the movie where they do that with a combat veteran who's died.
Yeah.
They bring him back with his consciousness in there, and he's literally ripping at his own face.
It's a little upsetting to watch.
Yeah, it is, because it's like, he knows his consciousness is in there, but he knows it's not his body, so the consciousness is rejecting the body kind of thing, and does set up as being at least relatively interesting, and then completely poops his pants. And then not even the weird Shadow Corporation bullshit at the end of the movie that they throw in there to try to make it more interesting, not even that can unfortunately save, like, an adequate direction of a really, really, really shitty script. Like, this is a bad, arguably the worst screenplay I saw all year. So it's just,
Probably.
I think I rated this, a 20. I believe it was a 20 out of 100. Replicas, my number 2, still one worse than this.
Also bad acting.
Yeah.
Like, even Keanu was just bad. See, this is the thing. We forget because we love Keanu so much, and we certainly do. Because he's fun, and he seems like a really legit good dude.
Yeah.
And you don't want to hate on the guy. And he's super cool, super passionate. All respect for one of the good guys in Hollywood, I guess you could say. But his acting was atrocious. And we forget that he's not necessarily a great actor.
Right.
Like, he's been bad. His wife. My God.
Oh,
She was dreadful.
she's so bad.
Keanu benefits a little bit from the fact that he's Keanu and you want to like him, so maybe you're not as hard on his performance, even though it's probably at least close to as bad.
Yeah.
But hers was just... Because that's where it went downhill for me. I liked the tearing itself apart. I could deal with this, but then as soon as he got home, it
Right.
just went to shit. Because as soon as it was like, honey, I'm home. You didn't say that, but it's basically like, yeah, look, he's home, and then she starts acting, and then it's like maybe his bad acting gets drawn out because of her, and they just have a bad acting competition. Like, let's do this, and then like just from that point on, it just became a bad movie. So my number 2 is gonna be short. It's The Silence, because I don't remember much about it, and you already covered.
I'm so happy.
You already covered most of it, and I don't really remember because I'm assuming you watched it fairly recently. 'Cause you watched a bunch of bad movies.
Yeah, about a month ago.
Yeah, I watched it when it first came out, and I was like, I don't know when that was, but it was earlier this year.
Good, I'm so glad.
So I don't remember any of it. I just remember that it was dull. Like that was like that dialogue. I remember hating the ending, even though I forgot what the ending was. Until
Right.
but.
They go up to Canada.
Yeah, like I hated the ending. I just remember it being so dull, and it was like you said with A Quiet Place. It's hard to not compare the two. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a bad movie. So this is a little short because you already covered it, but it's just dull. I don't know what it is about me, but I'm finding this year that like I'm finding movies boring more quickly too. Like before, boring was not something I used a lot, but I find that a lot of the movies, even movies that I like somewhat, it's like I'm still finding them a little boring. So I don't know if I'm just becoming less patient and stuff. Like maybe I'm becoming more simple as I get older, or maybe not. Maybe it's just been a boring year. I don't know, but yeah, The Silence is bad. It's very bad. I mean, there's worse things in the world, but it's still a bad movie.
Yeah. Worst things in the world, but if they exist, I haven't seen them. My number 1 worst movie of 2019, I mentioned it a little earlier, but really just in passing, was The Haunting of Sharon Tate. And the reason that this gets the call over Replicas, because Replicas was there for quite some time. The reason this gets the call is, again, it's not Hilary Duff. It's not. Which I kind of thought it might be when I saw that, oh god, okay, it's Hilary Duff. Hilary Duff. Hilary Duff was fine. She was, with what she was given, she was fine. This movie is filled from like first scene to almost last with this terrible, like, dollar store philosophy on fate.
Yes.
The whole movie, it just permeates the entire movie where it's like, I think we can change our fate. I don't know, fate is fate. Yeah, but I think we can change it. Yeah, but I mean, fate's kind of fate, right? And it's like, that seems like it's the whole movie, like any dialogue between characters.
But fate is fate.
But fate is fate.
You don't change fate because the change that you're trying to do is just your fate.
And its destiny is destiny. It's like, that like permeates the whole movie, right? And it also doesn't help that the movie goes about 10 full minutes until an actual line of dialogue is said between two characters. And then at a certain point when the Manson family killers actually get introduced, it just becomes your run-of-the-mill home invasion type of thing that then proceeds to retcon itself at breakneck speed. So what happens, and I don't mind spoiling this because it's a bad movie, so who cares? Sharon Tate and her friends like fend off the Manson killers and they kill the Manson killers and they're like, hey guys, we did it. Time to go to sleep now. So they wake up.
Whew,
They
what a day.
Exactly. Ooh, what a day. So they wake up and they walk onto the property for some reason after they fell asleep on the property, but whatever. It's a stupid movie, doesn't matter. So they walk onto the property only to see that it's actually their souls that have left their bodies and they were actually killed. And everything happens the way it actually happened for Sharon Tate. And then they smile and she's here holding her dead baby fetus in her arms. And then they walk off into the sunset all happy that they've all just been brutally murdered by the Manson family. And I'm just like, what is this movie trying to say? What is
So the
going
Manson
on?
family murders are okay because it was destiny? So
Yes,
they just walk
they're
off?
okay because it was fate.
Oh shit, yeah, I didn't know that.
According to Hillary Duff.
Think how much time we can save in money and resources just being like, that guy killed 5 guys. Just fake.
Right, I mean,
Just
look.
don't worry about it.
Don't worry, Your Honor, I'm the client's defense attorney.
Fate.
Fate? Case dismissed. So, case dismissed on why The Haunting of Sharon Tate is my #1 worst movie of 2019, and that's why Sharon Tate won that award for a person that deserves a better movie. Hopefully she gets it in 2020.
Imagine, if you will, a world where a movie directed by Fred Durst is better than a movie directed by Quentin Tarantino. Because my #1 is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Fred Durst did better than Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've seen the previous videos, he's touched on a bunch of things. I've stayed a little more quiet on it because I knew this day was coming. and
All right.
and I had said to you off camera that I think I even said I don't know if I said it in my worst, but I'm like, I had at least one that would like annoy the internet if anybody knew us. Annoy the movie world. You can actually hear Hollywood right now.
You can.
Cursing
Just
my
ringing,
name.
just like, oh, we're going to get those Canadians.
Yeah.
Because they didn't like the 2.5 hour long luscious blowjob that Quentin Tarantino gave to late 60s Hollywood.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's good things about it. The problem is those good things probably have a runtime of about 25 minutes tops, right? There was like when they go to like
You're
the little
so right.
when they go to like the little compound there, like there was a little tense,
Yeah.
right? Like they that was a little tense.
Yeah.
I like that part. I like the end where Brad Pitt, like that was cool where he gets violent shit. 30 minutes or maybe to 45. The problem is there's still 2 hours that I don't like. Like it's just boring and meandering. If you told me the stuff that happened in this movie, it would sound a lot more interesting than it actually is.
Right.
Because you think, oh, they get to watch like the old movies and stuff. And yeah, that was kind of charming at first. And then it overstayed its welcome. Just like the rest of the movie.
Right.
It just overstayed its welcome. Except it's just, I guess it's 3 movies, I think, in a row that I've said this, but it's dull and it's boring.
Mm-hmm.
And long movies are fine, and they don't need to be action-packed. It doesn't need to be blood-drenched like other Tarantino. I didn't want to hate it.
No, neither of us wanted to.
And I guess, in a sense, it has higher highs than the other movies on this list, because it does have the Brad Pitt performance.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, there's something to grab onto there. However, in the other sense, I wanted to sleep. And had I given in to what I really wanted, I would have missed those Brad Pitt parts.
Right.
So, I really, really do not like this movie.
Somewhere, and we joked about this off camera, somewhere out there should exist the Brad Pitt supercut of this movie. Just the parts with Brad Pitt. That's it.
Yes.
Nothing, literally nothing else. And that's no disrespect to Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
And that's no disrespect to Leonardo DiCaprio, but like, the Brad Pitt supercut of this movie is the only version of the movie that is worth watching.
Yeah, it's like Margot and like Leo, they're good actors and actresses, but
Yeah.
what you said before, like she didn't get much to work with, and Leo was. I wouldn't say he got that much to work with. He was in it more, for sure, but I wouldn't say that anything was, like, fantastic.
No.
I think his interactions with Pitt are, like, fine. Like, maybe it's not as bad as I think, but it's kind of just escalated to that because it is Tarantino and I know he can do better. But also I just feel like he completely wasted my time.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Kind of like I See You, where I just felt like the dude just wasted my time.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Those are our worst movies of 2019. The Haunting of Sharon Tate and that other Sharon Tate movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Sharon Tate movie!
Yes.
I didn't even connect that for some reason.
There you go, exactly. So,
God,
those were...
She sucks.
Yeah, no, she doesn't, but she got done dirty in 2019.
No, she sucks. Let's be offensive.
Let's be offensive, fair enough.
It's not her fault.
No, exactly. So, Haunting of Sharon Tate and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, those are our worst movies of 2019. Thank you very much for watching. If you continued to after he made Once Upon a Time in Hollywood his worst. But I mean, look, it was on my honorable mentions too, so clearly neither of us liked it. Next up, the main event, which is the top 30 best movies of 2019. That will be in 3 videos for you, comprising movies 30 to 21, 20 to 11, and number 10 to number 1. So join us for the first part of a 3-part best movies of 2019.